So what we have here is some goodies from Corsair. Man, that's heavy, it's dense. They actually sent the NCIX Tech Tips team a 250D and an H105. So instead of just normal unboxing videos, Wheels was sitting there and the wheels were turning in his head. Get it? Wheels? Because he's a thinker, that guy. And he was all like, so instead of just doing normal unboxing videos, why don't we instead load this puppy up to the gills and make an ultimate 250D build? This is pretty much about as expensive as a 250D can get, and rugged too. So we're not going to do a build guide on this. Instead, we went ahead and loaded this case with as much stuff as humanly possible. In fact, we went beyond humanly possible because Wheels is clearly Wheels, not humans. And we are going to share with you our experience building inside this case, and hopefully that will help you guys in the future. Also, to be clear, this isn't quite the most expensive rig you can make. I mean, you could put some more like lighting and mods and custom stuff inside and all of that. And this is just a matter of like Wheels went in and like raided the warehouse. So some of the very highest end components were just simply out of stock. So he pilfered whatever he possibly could. So let's just start with what we were able to cram in here. Obviously, the case is the Obsidian 250D mITX case from Corsair, so we went with a mITX motherboard. Oh, it says in the script, talk about the exterior in general. Well, I guess I skimmed over that, so why don't we go ahead and do that first. Okay, so on the front, you got a 5¼ inch bay, your power and reset switches, as well as, boop, just like that. Removable, nice brushed anodized aluminum front panel here that normally would have a 140mm fan behind it, but that has been replaced with a 120mm Corsair AF series fan in this build with a nice little red accent ring on it. A couple USB 3.0 ports as well as a headphone and a microphone jack. On the right hand side you got a filtered sort of side panel vent, and then on the left hand side you have a filtered side panel vent. This one is for fans, this one is for your graphics card fans, so they're basically both for fans. Alright, on the top we got a window that allows you to look down and see that mITX motherboard and your graphics card and your water cooler with your nice Corsair logo on it, because of course this is a Corsair case, so you want to go ahead and put Corsair cooler in there. On the back you got a couple 80mm fan mounts, as well as your 2 PCI slots and oh yeah, all that motherboard I/O. So PS2, 2 USB 2.0 ports, 4 USB 3.0 ports, eSATA, a gigabit Ethernet, DVI display port, HDMI, optical audio out! 7.1 audio out! So remember guys, this is an MSI gaming class board, so that is killer E2200 Ethernet, that is AC Wi-Fi with those 2 ports right there, and they do have an upgraded audio solution. Also on the back, you find 4 thumb screws that give you access to the hard drive and SSD sleds, and finally, a power supply slot that has a removable filter on the bottom. Whoop, I think I took the top panel off, which is just as well because my plan was to remove it all along. Let's dive into the inside of the case where we find, yes my friends, thumb screws that I have to take out. We'll be back in a moment. Alright, so now that I have removed all the side panels with their handy dandy, I love these, little magnetic cleanable mesh filters on them, we're gonna go ahead and check out what we put in here. Ha! My 250D build was better than Wheels'. He only has an AX860i power supply with Corsair Link. I put a 1200i in mine, in spite of the fact that you literally could not physically fit enough stuff in here to justify 1200 watt or even an 860 watt power supply for that matter. But don't worry too much about that, folks. At the back, you can see here the 2 Seagate 4TB SSHDs. So those are accelerated hard drives with small SSDs on them, as well as 2 240 gig Corsair SSDs, so that is a total of 8.5 terabytes of storage. You can also see up here the 16 gigs of Corsair Dominator Platinum RAM. You can see over here on the side the Corsair H100i cooler with Corsair Link. I know we said that we were going to be showcasing the H105, but unfortunately that particular cooler, due to its increased thickness, does not quite fit in this case. Depending on your motherboard, you might be able to get one in there, but you can see that for us, all those SATA cables and front USB 3 and all that good stuff was in the way. So with a little bit of a thinner radiator, it might have worked, but unfortunately, not so much for us. So before we move on, I'll just talk a little bit about why we would have liked to use the H105. The H100i does have the Corsair link integration, which the H105 does not, but the H105's thicker radiator that caused it to not fit does give it better performance. It also comes with PWM SP120L fans that run anywhere from 800 to 2700 RPM, a PWM-Y cable, meaning you can control both of them off a single header, and it goes back to the more classic Corsair styling with a round CPU block as opposed to the square one with the magnetic hold down that we have on the H100i. It's got a little swappable ring for style and all that kind of cool stuff, but we couldn't use it, so I guess we better move her right back on. Finally, we put a Radeon R9 290X in here, only because it fit with the red color scheme, of course. We tried the GeForce GTX 780 Ti reference and ACX from EVGA, both of which fit perfectly, but when we were going like, okay, yeah, we want like a red and black one. See, red and black. And we want like the ultimate card. Unfortunately, the 780 Ti Kingpin wasn't able to fit. The length was fine, the width was fine, but there was no room for the power connectors with the increased height of this card. It would have been nice to see a little bit of extra height, but if Corsair's whole thing, see that extra height is going to make it so you can't close the top panel, but if Corsair's whole thing on this case is getting as much stuff as you can into a small a case as possible, then you could kind of go, oh, well, I want an extra centimeter here, I want an extra centimeter there, I want an extra like 2 centimeters here, and finally you end up with a 900D. So that is why that probably wasn't possible. On most graphics cards, that won't be an issue with. There are a couple things that I would like to bring up about the process of building this particular machine. So first of all, loading up 4 drives was pretty tricky. As much as there is cable management room down here in the basement, if this had a backplane, that would be absolutely fantastic. Then these toolless sleds would be like so easy to use. You could swap a drive in and out of the system without even opening up the side panel. As it is, you have to open up this back thing, pull the drives in and out, and open up the side panel in order to cable management. So that would have been really great, but this was a little bit tricky back here. There's not a lot of room, particularly between the 2 SSDs. So instead of being able to use a single 1 connector to 4 connector adapter and plug all the drives in that way, we had to use a couple because the right angles and the sort of tightness and all that kind of stuff. So a backplane would have been a huge improvement. Also, when installing the cooler, the H100i had to be installed this way. So that's with the tubes at the front. And of course, there's no room for a 5 1/4 inch bay if you go ahead and throw a water cooler in there. So we ripped that out. If you put it the other way, it interferes with the I/O on the motherboard. So that's where another sort of centimeter or 2 of height in the top might have helped a little bit as well, but as it is, like I said, maximum density. Even this way, the front 140 millimeter fan had to be removed and replaced with an AF120 to make a little bit of extra room. There's still a little bit of an odd kink in there. I seem to recall that on my build, I got away with having a 140 millimeter fan in the front, but either way, it is a little bit tight and it's a little bit tricky. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this ultimate gaming rig in the 250D. Let us know if you have any suggestions for future sort of, maxed out, loaded up to the nines systems that you'd like us to try. Oh, please don't suggest the 900D because that would weigh about 400 pounds and be at least 4 extra centimeters in every dimension, as I mentioned before. Thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to NCIX Tech Tips for more videos like this from ncix.com and me. I helped with this. Actually, I did nothing. Wheels did it all. I just stood here and took the credit, just like I do week after week. Take that, Wheels.